I want you to look at this bear. This bear sleeps for 6 months straight. No guilt, no productivity apps. It doesn't compare itself to squirrels who stay busy all winter. No LinkedIn posts about maximizing hibernation efficiency. And yet somehow, we humans, with our fancy smartphones and color-coded calendars, think we can outperform a bear at rest management. Here's what's wild. That bear's brain actually grows during hibernation. Meanwhile, your last all-nighter literally shrunk your decision-making center. So who's the smarter species here? But there's something even weirder happening in your skull when you ignore your need for rest. Here's a fun little brain fact that's about to ruin your entire productivity philosophy. Your brain literally grows while you're doing absolutely nothing, like measurably gets bigger. Andrew Huberman dropped this neuroscience bomb, and suddenly every LinkedIn post about rise and grind looks like a tutorial for voluntary brain damage. That 16-hour grind session you just pulled, the one you're secretly proud of. Yeah, that actually shrunk your prefrontal cortex. I know, I'm fun at parties. But here's the weird part that nobody talks about, and it's going to change how you think about your lazy days forever. So, about the myth of linear productivity. Picture this, it's 2 a.m. You're staring at a blank document that was supposed to be finished yesterday, and your brain feels like it's running on dial-up internet. You've had 6 cups of coffee, but somehow you're both wired and exhausted. Every idea you type looks like it was written by a particularly uninspired chatbot. Sound familiar? Look, if you're here, you're probably not the type who settles for good enough. You're building something that matters. Maybe a company, maybe a movement, maybe just work that doesn't make you want to fake your own death every Monday morning. And that's exactly why this brain science stuff should terrify you. We've been sold this industrial age lie that more hours equal better results, that creativity works like an assembly line. Same inputs, same outputs, day after day. But here's what actually happens when you treat your brain like a machine. It breaks. Your prefrontal cortex, that's your brain's CEO, making all the important decisions, literally depletes with prolonged focus. Baumeister's studies prove willpower is finite. The more choices you make, the worse your decisions become. It's like your brain has a daily decision budget, and once you've spent it on 47 different font choices, you're bankrupt. Think about the last time your brain hit a wall. You probably tried to power through, right? More coffee, later nights, harder staring at the blank page. And what happened? The ideas didn't come. Or if they did, they felt about as inspiring as a grocery list. This isn't laziness. It's biology, screaming at you to stop. But there's one type of rest that actually makes you less creative. And 90% of burned out creators and entrepreneurs are doing it right now. I'll show you what it is in just a minute. But first, let me explain what's actually happening in your skull when you ignore these warning signs. Here's what nobody tells you about creative burnout. It's not just about feeling tired every day you push through it. You're literally rewiring your brain to associate your most important work with suffering. And once that neural pathway gets carved deep enough, it can take months to undo. Your competition isn't just getting ahead while you're spinning your wheels. They're building positive associations with their creative work, while you're building negative ones. That's not a productivity gap. That's a career trajectory shift. When you hit creative exhaustion, your brain starts shutting down the prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for focus, decisions, and original thinking. It's like a muscle that gets weaker with overuse. Except this muscle controls whether your ideas are brilliant or basic. Studies show judges give harsher rulings before lunch. Writers accept weaker ideas when tired. Your standards don't slip because you're lazy. They slip because your brain literally can't sustain the effort anymore. Decision fatigue explains why creativity dies under pressure. Every choice, what to write, which idea to pursue, how to solve problems. All these decisions drain the same mental account. By afternoon, you're staring at options that seemed obvious in the morning, completely unable to choose. Plot twist. Rest isn't optional for productive people. It's where the real work happens. When you step away, your brain switches to something called the default mode network. This is when unrelated ideas collide unexpectedly. Why solutions appear in the shower. Why breakthroughs happen during walks. Scientists found that the default mode network sparks more original thoughts than focused work. Your best ideas come when you're not trying, because creativity relies on unconscious processing. Writers report ideas appearing fully formed after walks. Scientists solve problems in dreams. This isn't magic. It's your brain finally getting the space to connect dots your busy mind overlooked. Sleep supercharges this process. During deep sleep, your brain's glymphatic system flushes out toxins that build up from thinking. NASA found a 26-minute nap improved performance by 34%. Your brain doesn't grow during effort. It grows during the rest that follows effort. But here's where most people screw this up completely. There's a 30-second test that reveals whether you're creatively burned out or just regular tired. And most people guess wrong. We'll do it together in a few minutes. But first, let me introduce you to your two creative selves, the fire starter and ember keeper. Every productive and creative person has two essential selves living in their head, and society has taught us to worship one while shaming the other. Meet the fire starter. This is your burst of energy, late-night work session, rushing toward deadline self. The fire starter gets all the glory. Hustle culture loves this guy. LinkedIn posts are written about him. Then there's the ember keeper. This one operates quietly, reflecting, resting, letting ideas simmer underground. The ember keeper feels unproductive. Society treats this mode like failure. But here's what fire ecology teaches us. Wildfires aren't disasters. They clear space for new growth. But the forest doesn't immediately bounce back. Embers keep burning underground, preparing the soil. New sprouts don't appear until after the smoke clears. Your creativity works exactly the same way. Look at how startup culture versus how actual artists work. Tech founders brag about sleepless nights and grinding. Meanwhile, studies of Nobel laureates show that breakthroughs rarely happen at the desk. They emerge during walks, baths, or idle moments. Composer Leonard Bernstein kept a piano near his bathtub for ideas that struck mid-soak. Haruki Murakami runs daily to clear his mind. This kind of downtime isn't empty. It's where subconscious connections form. Research backs this up. One study tracked creative professionals for a year. Their output spiked after deliberate rest periods. Participants who scheduled downtime produced higher quality work than those who pushed continuously. The difference wasn't talent, it was rhythm. But social media hijacks this cycle completely. Platforms reward constant posting, making the ember keeper seem lazy. Every notification pulls you back into fire starter mode too soon. Your brain needs uninterrupted rest to recharge. But we've created a society that makes rest feel like moral failure. The cultural lie is that rest is optional. In reality, it's where the magic happens. James Dyson built 5,126 prototype vacuums before his breakthrough. Those failed attempts weren't wasted time. They were embers heating up for the final design. Your creative rhythm needs both phases. If you only honor the fire starter, you'll keep hitting walls. The work feels forced, ideas dry up, but when you respect the ember keeper, something shifts. Solutions appear effortlessly. Projects flow better. You stop fearing creative blocks because you understand they're part of the cycle. Okay, but how do you know when the balance is off? Because burnout doesn't announce itself with sirens. It starts with quiet signals we usually ignore. Recognizing burnout signals. Here's that 30-second test I promised. When you think about your next creative project, what comes up first? A. Excitement. Evenness mixed with nerves. B. Dread or heaviness. C. Literally nothing. Just blank space. If you answered A, you're just regular tired. A good night's sleep will fix you. If you answered B or C, congratulations. You're creatively burned out, and pushing harder will only make it worse. Here's why this test works. Healthy fatigue still has sparks underneath, but burnout feels like wet wood. No amount of blowing makes it catch fire. You know that feeling when a project ends, and instead of relief, you just feel hollow. That's not regular tiredness. Creative burnout creeps in slowly. First you might notice you're scrolling more, but enjoying it less. Caffeine stops working. Worse, the work you used to love now feels pointless. Burnout doesn't start with collapse. It starts with cynicism. Suddenly your own ideas seem stupid. Feedback feels personal. You dismiss new projects before they begin. Researchers call this creative alienation, when you emotionally detach from work that once mattered. Watch for these subtle shifts. You used to lose track of time while working. Now you watch the clock. Feedback that once inspired revisions now feels like attacks. Ideas that used to excite you now seem naive. This isn't maturity, it's depletion. Creative blocks reveal the truth. Normal blocks resolve in 3 to 5 days with rest. Burnout-related blocks last 21 days or more. The longer it lasts, the more you panic, pushing harder, which makes it worse. The cruel twist. Society rewards burnout signals. She works so hard. Translation, she hasn't slept. He's always grinding, meaning he's running on fumes. We mistake red flags for badges of honor. One survey found 85% of game developers experienced diminished creativity after prolonged crunch time. Their technical skills remained, but original thinking suffered. Your disinterest isn't laziness. It's your brain's warning system, like a car's temperature light. It's not suggesting you drive slower, it's demanding you shut the engine off. The good news? Once you spot these signals, you can respond deliberately instead of waiting for collapse. And that response starts with treating recovery, not as an emergency measure, but as a regular practice. So let's look at the Renew framework. What if recovery was as intentional as your creative work? Most of us treat rest as an afterthought, something we do only after crashing. The Renew framework flips that. It's a 5-step cycle that makes recovery proactive, not reactive. Recognize the signals. That heavy feeling when you open your laptop, meetings suddenly feeling pointless, preferring scrolling to creating. These aren't character flaws. They're your creative battery warning light. Studies show creatives who spotted these early signals reduce burnout episodes by 60%. Exit the output mindset. This is harder than it sounds because our brains are trained to measure worth by productivity. Try shifting the question from, "What did I make today?" to, "What do I need today?" Composer John Cage took entire weeks away from composing to collect mushrooms, not as distraction, but as essential input. Nourish input channels. This isn't about passive rest. It's deliberate refueling. Long walks without podcasts. Journaling without editing. Neuroscientists found these activities activate the default mode network 30% more than forced relaxation. Embrace recovery as a skill. Athletes don't just rest, they actively recover. Cold plunges, stretching, protein timing. You need similar strategies. Schedule rest, like meetings. Author Cal Newport blocks input days where he only reads and walks. Right from the embers. When you return to work, don't sprint. Start with low-stakes tasks. Editing old work, organizing files, sketching loosely. Novelist Zadie Smith writes single sentences between reading breaks. This gentle re-entry prevents the panic that kills creativity. The key difference? Crash and burn cycles treat recovery as damage control. The Renew framework treats rest and recovery as part of the productive process. Advertising teams using this method reported 22% more campaign ideas than chronically overworked teams. Rest isn't lost time, it's incubation. Beethoven took midday walks carrying blank sheet music. J.K. Rowling wrote early Harry Potter chapters in cafes while her baby napped. Their downtime wasn't empty, it was where subconscious connections formed. But here's the perspective shift that changes everything about creative droughts. Why don't bears feel guilty about hibernating? They don't lie awake in their dens, worrying they're wasting time. They don't compare their winter to the squirrels, which are still gathering nuts. They rest because their bodies demand it. No apologies. Yet humans treat creative breaks like moral failures. Hibernation isn't laziness, it's life support. A bear's heart rate drops to 8 beats per minute. Body temperature falls. Metabolism slows. These changes aren't optional. They're survival. Without this pause, the animal dies. Your mind works the same way. Now imagine this instead. You wake up Monday morning, actually excited about your project. Ideas flow so naturally you have to keep a notebook by your bed. People start asking what you're doing differently because your work has this spark to it. That's not fantasy. That's what happens when you stop fighting your brain's natural rhythms. Look at nature's rhythm. Fruit trees don't produce year-round. Salmon don't spawn continuously. Even the most productive ecosystems have fallow periods. Yet humans expect non-stop creativity. One survey found 68% of writers felt guilty for taking breaks between projects. This mindset backfires. Research on composers shows those who enforced creative winters produce 30% more work long-term than peers who push themselves non-stop. History's great creators understood this. Charles Darwin spent 8 years studying barnacles between evolutionary breakthroughs. Maya Angelou wrote in seasonal cycles. Intense morning work, and then months of editing. Einstein took a 2-year break from physics to work in a patent office. These weren't distractions. They were creative dormancy periods where ideas matured unseen. A Harvard study tracked architects who took sabbaticals. Their post-break designs won 40% more awards than pre-sabbatical work. The difference wasn't effort, it was consolidation time. Like bears emerging stronger in spring, their creativity renewed after a creative winter. Try seasonal planning. Block creative winters in your calendar, just like work sprints. Author Neil Gaiman follows a make good art period, then an input month for reading and wondering. Your creative winter prepares your spring. When composer Arvo Pärt hit burnout, he spent 8 years studying medieval music silently. That dormancy birthed his iconic Tintinnabuli style. The guilt around rest comes from mistaking creativity for production. But trees don't grow during storms. They grow after, when roots absorb rainwater. Your breakthroughs come the same way, not in a storm of effort, but in the quiet after. Bears don't judge hibernation because they understand instinctively that survival requires rhythm. So here's some homework. And yes, it's the fun type. Pick one Ember Keeper habit this week. Maybe it's a 20-minute walk without podcasts. Maybe it's staring out the window instead of scrolling. Maybe it's taking a nap without setting 17 alarms. Then come back and tell me what happened. Drop a comment. My Ember habit was X. And here's what I noticed. Because I guarantee you'll discover something that'll change how you think about productivity forever. That heavy feeling after creating? It's not failure, it's feedback. Your brain's way of saying shift gears. The work isn't suffering because you're weak. It's suffering because you're ignoring natural rhythms. Your next breakthrough isn't hiding in your next all-nighter. It's waiting in your next real rest. And honestly, your future self, the one creating work that actually matters, the one people remember, the one who changed something important, that person is going to thank you for learning this now instead of burning out spectacularly later. Trust me on this one. The bears have it figured out. If you enjoyed this video, let me know by hitting the like button. It lets me know I'm hitting the spot. Also, you'll also love this one on why focusing feels like a battle. And hit subscribe and the bell so you don't miss any new videos.